Good evening and welcome to the Folens Homework Space webinar for school leaders. I know that there's a good number of principals, vice principals and digital leaders here this evening, so thank you so much for joining us. My name is Lizzie Gibbon and I'm the Field Sales Manager. Conor, perhaps we can move on to the next slide, thank you. And on our panel here we have Conor Walker, who is our Head of Post-Primary Publishing. He's going to be giving you a good overview of Homework Space and how it's genuinely going to be able to help and support your school, your teachers and your students. Also with us on our panel this evening, we have Ciara MacNamara, who is our Head of Digital Learning Platforms. She's going to delve into the live Homework Space platform this evening and really demonstrate to you the experience that the teachers and the students will get by using Homework Space. After that, I'll give you a bit of an explanation of the pricing for Homework Space and who to chat to if you're interested. We'll have a Q&A session at the end, so if you do have any questions during the webinar, type them into the chat box and we will answer as many as we can this evening, and any we don't get to, we'll contact you afterwards with answers for you. Overall, I think we'll be here about 40 or so minutes, so I'm going to hand over now to Conor, who's going to give us an overview. Thanks, Conor.
Thanks, Lizzie. And thanks to everyone who's attending, to all our school leaders and teachers who are tuning in with us this evening. We really appreciate your time. We know how busy you are. So for the next couple of minutes, I'm just going to talk a little bit about Homework Space and what it is. So what is Homework Space? Well, it's a new digital product from Folens. It's curriculum aligned and it contains ready-made homework assignments. And the way that it works is that teachers set their homework in the system for their class, for their students. Then the students go into the system whereby they then answer and submit their homework. Then the system automatically marks each student's answers. And then the teacher can review results and track progress over a period of time. And the thing about Homework Space is that it can be used alongside any textbook. So you don't have to be using a Folens textbook. In fact, you don't need to be using any textbook. It's very much a standalone product and it can be used no matter what way you teach your subject. So to look now about how Homework Space will help schools, and particularly from a kind of a principal's point of view or from a school leader's point of view. Well, one of the things I suppose that we all know that in the last year that digital has become much more prevalent in its use in teaching and learning. And schools have become very much expert at using that in conjunction with whatever print materials they might be using with their classes. And they know what they want in terms of the approach that they want. And I think that Homework Space and digital homework setting that it offers and the marking that it offers allows you to support that. It allows you to support blended learning consistently in your school. And it's also an easy solution for tracking progress. So whether it's your class or whether it's your students, it allows you to look and get a view of them over time, how they're performing, the areas that they are performing well in, and maybe areas that you need to revise with them on. Look, one of the things about this product we feel is that Homework Space is something that will help staff to save time. So whether it's the fact that the content is ready-made and written, whether it's the fact that the system automatically does a lot of the work for you, or that over time it allows you to see what progress is like with your class, all of those things, I suppose, bundled together allow you to save time, and time is definitely precious for our teachers at this moment. And from a student's perspective, because of the types of questions that appear in a homework quiz, there's a whole range of different question styles and approaches. So it makes it engaging for the students, and hopefully that will help to motivate them. And the questions themselves obviously offer an opportunity for the students to practice what they've maybe learned, and also the feedback that they get in each question helps them to reinforce their learning. So next one I'll just quickly go through is the subjects that we have available in Homework Space. So it's across the junior cycle range of subjects, and at the moment we've got junior cycle maths, higher level and ordinary level. We've got higher and ordinary level Irish as well, also including a stream for first year. Then at common level, we cover French and science. And very shortly, coming soon in February, we'll have our geography and history Homework Space. And we'll round off the MFL subjects by making Spanish and German available in Homework Space 2. Next, I'd like to just show everyone what the product structure looks like and how it's aligned to curriculum. So to just explain it really, it's probably best to look at Homework Space structured like your traditional textbook in many respects, because every Homework Space in every subject is made up of chapters, and those chapters we call units. And then within each unit, there's a series of homework assignments on key topics or skills. And at the end of that unit, it finishes with a final test, very much like the revision section at the end of a chapter of a textbook. And what I'll do here now is I'll just maybe step through a couple of examples of how that is structured across different subjects. So here we're looking at an example from our junior cycle maths homework space. And unit 7, or chapter 7, is on decimals and percentages. And our assignments 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, and 7.4, the green boxes there represent the homework quizzes or activities. And then at the end of that, the final test, 7.5, is like a revision test that the students can take, which will cover units or quizzes 7.1 through to 7.4. And it's very similar then for the language subjects as well, in that you've got your homework quizzes. In this case, it's 1.1 through to 1.6, and then you've got your final test at the end. But with languages, one thing that we've developed in this and for the MFL subjects as well is that we've created homework quizzes within each unit that are focused very much on language skills development. So 1.1 there is a Clúis-Tuiscint, which is a listening comprehension. Then 1.2 is a grammar related homework activity. 1.3 is a vocabulary activity on the Ibric or the numbers. 1.4 is a Léamh-Tuiscint, which is a reading comprehension and focuses on reading skills development. 1.5 then is a poem, which is taken from the recommended reading list from the NCCA. In this case, it's the poem Telefiche. Now, it's not necessary for students to have actually covered that or to study that. They'll see that poem for the first time, and there will be questions very carefully scaffolded, which will help or will ask them questions on that. And then 1.6 is another vocabulary activity, and we finish again with the test at the end. And so this is very much how the units within the MFL and the language subjects are structured. And because we're going to just jump into now a fuller example of science, I thought I'd just show what a science homework unit looks like. So again, 7.1 through to 7.4 are on topics related to respiration, which is chapter 7, and then we have a final test at the end. So I'll just click on, and this is just giving you a bigger picture view of what the structure of science looks like. And the unit title or the chapters are listed on the left. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in the left example. And then you can see that the homeworks within each of them, there's usually the same number. In the case of science, there's about 4 or 5. And then you've got the final test at the end. And in these examples here, or on this screen, we're looking at units covering the nature of science, graphs, and a range of chapters from the biological world. Then we move through that strand, and we move then into chapters or units 17, 18, and 19, which are chemistry focused. And we keep then going through the chemistry units through to chapter 29, which takes us into the physical world. And then we keep moving on, where then by chapter 36, 37, and 38, we cover topics related to Earth and space. So that's the overview of the product and how it's structured, I suppose. What I'm going to do now is just hand it to Lizzie to hand it over to Ciara.
Thanks very much. That's fantastic. So yeah, I'm going to hand over to Ciara now, who is going to give us a really good in-depth view of Home Workspace from both the teacher perspective, but also from the student perspective. So this will really give you a really good idea of what it all looks like inside the platform. So thanks very much, Ciara.
Great. Okay, 1 second. I'm just going to share my screen. And so you should be then looking at our Folens.ie website. As I said, I'm head of digital learning platform. So I've been working with the team to help design and build some of the functionality that's gone into this new product, Homework Space. So what I want to do is just take you into the platform and just look at some of the core functionalities that teachers and students would use while using this product. So I'm going to log in as a teacher first. So if I just log in, and I'm pretending to be a science teacher in this example, and we can see that the Homework Space product is here. So I'm just going to click on that in my library to launch it. And this brings us straight in. So we can see here on the left-hand side, similar to what Conor was saying, these are all the topics that have been marked out for Homework Space Science. And if you click into any of these, you can see that these are all the homework assignments. So there's 4 homework assignments here, and then there's a final test. And that's the same for each unit of work or each topic. If I select one of these, actually we'll go for 3.1 because that's the one I'm going to jump into. When you click an activity, the teacher will actually see here a preview of the questions that are going to be asked. So here she can quickly review what questions are going to come up for the students. They see what the answers are, and they just have an overview before they actually go in and assign the test. So to assign the activity, up here in the top right hand corner, there's a button, assign activity. So teacher will click on this button, and this brings them to this page here. So there's kind of three main steps to this point, to this page. The first thing is to select which content you want to assign. So you can do this by just selecting the little checkbox beside any of the homework assignments that you want to give to the class. If you wanted to, you can select more than one assignment to do it at a time. And then your second step here is to select who you want to give the assignment to. So I can select here to give it to the whole of my, to all the students in my science class. Or if I wanted to do some differentiation, maybe I could assign it to an individual student, and that will give me the list of students who are in my class. And so basically, students will only see the work that's assigned to them, and they won't know what you've assigned to other students. So it's quite good for that differentiation piece as well. Then our final step is to decide when students will have access to the assignment. So you can set the available from date. I'm going to set it as immediately because we're going to go straight in. But you could use this to plan ahead. If teachers wanted to, they could set assignments for the following week as well. And then they can set a due date. I'm going to give them till next Monday. If you don't want to set a due date, if you want, so basically this determines when the assignment is available to students. So in this scenario, after the 1st of March, it will no longer be available to them. If you want to give them a bit of an extension on it, you can do that. You can specify the number of days which they have, or you can just make sure that it's permanently available by selecting one of these 2 boxes. So I'm going to save that, and now I've created my assignment. So what I want to do next is I actually want to log in as a student, so you get to see what the student would actually experience using this product. I'm going to log out of Ms. McDara's profile and log in as one of the students. Okay, so the first thing what the student will see when they log in is that the product which the homework comes from has now appeared in their library. And if they were using any of our ebooks, these would also just appear alongside here. Up here in the menu bar, you can see that the assignment section has a little red tag on it, or an alert. This indicates that the student has a homework assignment. So if they click in here, they'll see that in their due section of the assignments that they actually have one piece of homework that they need to complete. And even if they log out at this stage, this little red alert is going to remain in place until they've actually completed their homework. So if I jump in here and I can start the activity. So this just gives the student a bit of information before they jump right in. So it gives them like their due date, like how many questions they have, and they can proceed into the assignment. So when they get in, again, they can see clearly how many questions that they have in the assignment to do, what question they're currently viewing, how many attempts they'll have at a question. If they've, for homework space, they just have one attempt for each question, and then the number of marks that are available for the question. So if I then just look at the question, so which scientists first use the word cells when observing a sample of cork underneath the microscope. So I can select one of the options here. This is the multiple choice type activity. We have several different activity types, and I'll take you through some of those in a moment. But you can see here now when I've selected this option, this check answer button has become enabled. So I can now, if I decide that this is the answer, I can submit it. And immediately now the student will get the feedback that they have got the correct answer, right? So they know they've got the correct answer. They get the reinforcement here of exactly what Robert Hooke did. And I can see I've got my 2 marks for this question. And then I can proceed on to the next question. So if I just show you then what happens if a student gets a question wrong. So in this one, what is a cell? I'm going to select the first option here. And now what I see I've got that incorrect answer, and I'm getting feedback to tell me actually what a cell is. A cell is the smallest working unit of a living organism. And so I'm just going to scroll through past some of these because they're similar questions. So this is a different question type. So here again, students would just select the option from the drop-down list. So tissues are composed of similar cells working together to carry out. So I'm going to get one right and one wrong on this. And if I submit that answer, you can see, okay, so the students are told what the full feedback is, but also that they're actually being shown that they actually did get part of the question correct. And see if there's any other question types. Okay, here's another one. This is an association style activity. So students would just have to drag the answer, so the red blood cell tile over into to match with the pictures. So if I just fill those in, and again, I'm getting the feedback that I've answered everything correctly, and they all highlight in green to indicate that. And another question type here. So, and this time students are just trying to match, okay, is blood a tissue, an organ, or an organ system? So, I'm very good at my science. I think tissue, is it? We'll get a mixture of these right and wrong. So again, we can see that the questions that the parts of the question that I've got correct are highlighted in green, and what I've got wrong is marked as well. So students are still getting feedback of what the full correct answer is at all times. So once they've actually completed a homework assignment, they can submit that, and then they'll get an aggregate of their score. So you can see here that this didn't do too well in this particular assessment. So now when we come back, when I exit that assessment, what we'll see is that my homework, I no longer have any due homework because I've completed it. So we can see that the activity 3.1 cells has now moved into this marked area, and that if I jump back into the due section, I actually have no assignments, and the little alert has disappeared from my from the assignments menu item. If, as a student, at any point I want to go back and revise what answers I submitted, so they can go back into the test and they can see how well they did, what answers they selected, if they got it right or wrong, and if they did get it wrong, what the correct answer is. It gives them the scores, so they've always got this opportunity to revise and go back over everything if they so choose. So I'm now going to just jump back out of the student and we'll go back to the teacher and see. So what does the teacher see once the students have actually completed the homework? So they've got this assignment section over here on the left menu. So I'm going to jump in here. Okay, and so this teacher has only set the one assignment, which is the 3-point cell. So I can see this is listed here. It's got some information about like who I've assigned it to, the class, what the due date was. So we can see here that the due date hasn't passed. And we can see that 3 out of the 9 students have submitted it. So I did it for 2 of the other students earlier on. So if I jump in here now, just get some summary information about what the activity is actually about. And down here then I can see, okay, under the submitted section, I can see which students have actually submitted it. So Abdul was a student that I just pretended to be there and went through and did the exam. So I can see how those students have performed. And if I want, I can jump straight into Abdul's homework assignment and see exactly what answers he selected and which ones he got right and which ones he got wrong. What I can also see here is I can see who hasn't actually submitted the homework yet, and if I need to, I can send a reminder. They still have until next Monday to do it if they need a bit of a chaser. Another useful tool on this page is this compare student responses. So once the whole class have actually submitted their work, this will all get populated. You can see here I've got all the students across who are in the class, and it starts. I've got the questions within this particular homework assignment along the left-hand side. So I can actually see really quickly which students struggled with which question, but also if I get a pattern here where everyone got question 1 wrong, I can see straight away that that's actually a question that maybe I need to work on in class and cover with everybody. So it's a handy just little way to, and that can be exported as well if necessary. So one of the final things I just want to show you is I know I showed you earlier on a few of the different activity types that we have on offer. But Conor, and this has all been focused on a science example, but I just want to show you one of our, if I jump into French, maybe. Our French homework space product. And I'll just show you that one of the question types that we have with audio in it. So if I open this activity. So we've embedded audio, so there's an awful lot in the end files in the Irish that we've created. There's an awful lot of audio or audio practice as well for the students to listen to and answer the questions. So just play some of that there.
Week-end. Moi, j'adore le week-end. Je me détendrai pendant 2 jours complets. Ce week-end, je fais.
So I think I'm pretty sure he said he was going to relax. Excellent. For the weekend, and then I can go on and answer some of the other questions. So there's lots of different question types that we use with the audio. This is another example that you've seen where you can kind of listen and check true or false. So we've tried to incorporate that as much as possible. Okay, so Lizzie, I think that's it for me, so I'm going to hand back to you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ciara. That was really, really helpful and really great. If I could just get the slides up, that'd be fantastic.
I think Ciara needs to just hand control over to me.
Okay, Conor, you should have access now.
Great stuff,
okay.
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, so next.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just clicking through now.
Thanks very much. Okay, so I'm going to just give you a quick overview of the pricing and how it all works. So Homework Space is purchased as an annual subscription for the school. It's charged per student user, and it's €8.50 per subject, per user, per year. So If you want to have a chat at all with anybody about this, Brian McGarvey is your man. He's our specialist home workspace sales advisor. He can arrange for you to view our bank of questions, which might be really, really helpful if you have any teachers in your school who want a closer look before they decide if this is for them. He'd be happy to arrange a virtual appointment at a time that suits you or your staff, so whether that's during the day or in the evening, whatever works best. That can be by phone or to allow screen sharing, which really, really helps in terms of people getting a grasp of what this is. He can do a video appointment either. He'll talk to you about the special bundle prices that we have for schools who wish to use home workspace for multiple subjects. So basically, the more subjects that a school take on, the better value there is there. So, really, really good value for taking on multiple subjects. Now, while home workspace subscriptions run in line with the full academic year, we have a good number of schools who are ordering at the moment for the next school year, but are really, really keen to get started immediately and purchase for the remainder of this school year. And that's absolutely no problem at all. For example, I know that third years now, because the junior cycle exams have been cancelled, some schools are coming online with us right now for that. So do speak to Brian to discuss pricing for doing that, even if you just want to start from the beginning of this year and then on into next year as well. So Brian's available on 087 050 1951, and that's brian.mcgarvey@Folens.ie. We'll just leave that there for a second so that you can take that down. Great stuff. And we'll now move on to our questions and answers. We've got a good few questions in already. So I'm just having a look at all the questions that have come in. So the first question is around GDPR. So there's a few people asked that question. So yeah, so how does it work in terms of GDPR and what information has to come over to us, etc., etc. So I mean, overall in Folens, we take our responsibilities for GDPR really, really seriously, and we tend to try and minimise the data that we collect to what is absolutely necessary. So within home workspace, the only personal data that we collect are teacher names and student names and email addresses. So in terms of those email addresses, we recommend that students are given a school email address rather than use their own personal emails. And then no different to any other platform your school's already using. So, whether that's VSware or Google Classrooms, we recommend that you do seek parental consent to do that. So users of home workspace, there is the absolute highest level of security and protection available within the Folens Hive platform. And Folens Hive, it's already used by thousands of teachers and students nationwide. So yeah, so if you do have any other queries at all with regard to our privacy policy, you'll find that really, really easily on Folens.ie. So yeah, so that's a pretty good one. I'm just looking at any other questions that have come in here. This is probably a question for Conor, actually. A few people have asked this question, is do you have to be using the corresponding Folens textbook for each subject? Conor, do you want to come online for that one?
Yeah, sure. No, you don't. You don't need to be using the Folens textbook. I think I mentioned earlier, you don't need to be using Folens. You don't need to be using, you can be using any textbook. You could be using no textbook. I think what we've done is we've basically, designed a product that is applicable to whatever your classroom setup is. There's a logical structure to it. So I think from looking at the demo that Ciara did, you'll see that there's a very clear set of chapters and topics which are easily identifiable, and it really doesn't matter what book you would be using. I think that any teacher who would know their subject would know what they're looking for and would be able to easily find that in homework space. And also the quizzes as well, I guess, are kind of they're not overly long for students to attempt, so you should be able to complement the use of homework space with what other forms of homework and work assignment you might be doing with your classes. Yeah.
Great. So that really makes it very easy for any school to use from that point of view. So that's fantastic. Thanks, Conor, for that. And there's a couple of questions here around the setup process. Ciara, do you want to just switch on your camera? We can see you. Might be a good question for you. What's the setup process, Ciara, please?
Okay, so what we do is we recommend that you appoint a school administrator, and they will then basically go into the system and set it up in advance of any of the teachers actually getting in to use it. So essentially, a lot of your teachers are already going to be registered because they'll be using Folens online, and when they log in, the admin will see all those teachers. As Lizzie said, we would recommend for students that they use a school address, email address, and basically the only information we need is what your students' names are, what email address, their login, a password. So you can give them all the same passwords. You can give them, if they have passwords for the systems, you can do that, and then what class you want to put them in. And so essentially that's uploaded into the system, and then once the teacher or the admin will then just notify teachers that they're ready to go, and teachers can go in straight away and assign homework, and that actually gives the product to the students. So you saw me do that earlier on.
Fantastic, great stuff, lovely. Okay, another question for Ciara here. Are teachers able to amend or create their own questions, or is everything preset?
So everything is preset. So that's why we were very keen to make sure that you had a preview of what questions were actually in the assessment. So you wouldn't have to necessarily take each assessment. You could see it. So that's an interesting one, maybe for a future product iteration. I will keep that in mind. But at the moment, no, it is just their preset questions.
Yeah, I suppose a lot of it was about trying to, I mean, when we did our research, it was all about trying to see what teachers really, really needed, and the big thing is about saving teachers time. And, you know, our authors that have been involved in this are really expert as well. So the content is fantastically put together, and we've taken a lot of the hard work out of it for teachers by doing that, haven't we, I suppose? So yeah.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, like, as you know, Conor described around the structure of it. So if you use those 4 homework assignments as you go through, and then you assign that test, you know you've covered everything. The questions in the test are different to what are in the assignments, but they'll cover the same material. So it is very structured, and it kind of brings you on in a progressive way.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, I have another question. I think this is another Ciara one. I think there's a whole pile of them coming in that look like Conor's ones though, but yeah, questions on devices. So what devices can it be used in?
Okay, so we always recommend, for all of our products, we recommend using a desktop or a laptop. And that's just, again, for like how the information is displayed, right? It's definitely the best. We do see students trying to use different devices. We always recommend to use the biggest screen possible for the best layout. That said, you can, we will be making this fully available to support on devices like, so tablet devices. So we'll be available to use on iPads and Android tablets very soon. So we're working on that right now. So we'll have that ready for September.
Okay, so can you explain to everyone how is it on a browser, or is it on an app, or how does that all work?
Okay, so it's a browser. So you basically just open your internet browser, type in Folens.ie, and it should be where where your teachers are going for their ebooks, and where students can access their ebooks there as well.
Great stuff. Okay, this looks like it's one for Conor. When is the history and geography going to be available?
History and geography they're imminent. They should be ready certainly within the next week or so, I believe. We can certainly confirm exact dates on that. And then I think that just leaves us then with Spanish and German, which again are close to completion. They're pretty far into development. We're just doing a little bit of additional recording, and they should be good to go in March. And again, I think that if anyone is specifically curious about exactly when they will be available, maybe Brian would be your first port of call, and certainly we can relay that information if you need an exact date to
as it becomes clear. Fantastic. Are there any plans for senior cycle, Conor?
As it stands, there's not. I guess the primary focus was for junior cycle. I guess with senior cycle, it's definitely something we can take a look at, but I suppose whether it's homework space or maybe there's another product in the pipeline for Folens that would be better suited to it. But we can certainly look at it. As it stands, focuses on junior cycle. But there will be, I'm sure, kind of consideration for Leaving Cert, and whether that's done through homework space or through something else more kind of exam or revision focused, we'll be certainly taking a look at that.
Yeah. And so that'll all be based on research with teachers and what their biggest needs are, really, won't it? That'll be, you know, how we develop.
Absolutely, yeah. And once we kind of know what the needs are with respect to, particularly with respect to digital products, kind of focused on senior cycle, we'll kind of get the ball in motion in terms of developing something then for that.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, we've still got a couple more questions here. What can the students look back on? I think you showed us a little bit of this, but maybe you can just re-go over that one a little bit more.
Yeah, so once students have completed an assignment, a homework assignment, they can essentially go back in. They can't take the test again, but they can see exactly what they've done in that test. So they can see what answer they selected, if they got that answer correct or incorrect. If they did get it wrong, they can see what the correct answer was. They can see how many marks they've been awarded for it. So they get a full summary of everything that happened in that assignment, and they can go back into that at any point. So even after the due date has passed, like, you know, if they want to go back and revise that towards the end of the year, they have access to everything forevermore.
Yeah, okay. And another one here for Ciara, I think, is if a student gets a question corrected, are they awarded any marks? I think the answer to that is yes, they do, don't they?
Yeah. So they get marks as they go through. If they skip a question, that will be treated as no, they didn't attempt it, so they get 0 marks. But most questions are kind of, you know, there's kind of 2 marks minimum per question. And you could see as well that there were some questions which had maybe 2 or 3 parts to it. And so even if they get only one part of the question right, they'll still get marks for that. So we're trying to reward them as much as possible for every correct answer that they get in the system.
Great stuff. Lovely. Okay, I think that concludes our time for questions and answers. There are a good few more questions there from people, but what I'll do is I'll make sure that we get back to individuals on those things. Really to just conclude, just a quick reminder here, there is another webinar for Homework Space, but specifically for teachers, and that's happening this Thursday. So as I say, it's specifically aimed at teachers. Do encourage your teachers to register and attend. That's 7 p.m. this Thursday evening. They can register at Folens.ie. And you will receive an email after this webinar, which includes a recording of this webinar. So that will be really, really helpful if you want to pass it on or, you know, forward that recording to any members of your staff who can't attend on Thursday. Obviously, it's always better to attend the real thing, but you know, the recording is there for you, and you'll all receive that this evening. So all that remains to do is to thank Ciara and Conor for their presentations this evening. Thank you very much. But most of all, thank you to all of you for giving up your time this evening to attend our webinar. Thank you very, very much. And that concludes the evening. Thank you so much. Good night, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.